Hey there! Gonna do another story today, and this one is called The Ocean Calls, a Haenyeo Mermaid story. And what I learned is that Haenyeo are female ocean divers. So I don't know where the mermaid fits in, but we're gonna find out. The Ocean Calls, a Haenyeo Mermaid story. Let's move that little light out of the way. Sorry about that. That doesn't really help, does it? Ute, here we go. This says, dedicated to the hard-working Haenyeo of South Korea. Dedicated to the water islands and all of their protectors. The Ocean Calls, a Haenyeo Mermaid story. Daeyeon and Grandma stretched and watched the sun's first rays kiss the sky. "The ocean is calling me today," said Grandma. "I must dive." "I want to be a Haenyeo like you," said Daeyeon. "You're like a treasure-hunting mermaid." But then Daeyeon remembered the time she jumped off the big rock last summer while visiting Grandma. Water had filled her ears and nose, burned her eyes, and stung her skin. And worse, the deep ocean, where Grandma swam, was full of sharks and other scary creatures. Daeyeon shivered. "You can't grow into a mermaid if you don't finish your abalone porridge," said Grandma. Daeyeon held the shimmery blue abalone shell and rubbed her fingers over its holes. Grandma cleaned and boiled the shellfish from her catch to sell, but this porridge she had saved just for Daeyeon. As Grandma washed the dishes, she and Daeyeon practiced holding their breath. 1, 2, 3, 14, 15, 16. Daeyeon let the air escape in a long sigh. Grandma squeezed Daeyeon's hand. "Don't worry, I learned to be a Haenyeo from my mother, and now I will teach you." After breakfast, Grandma put on sunscreen, a diving suit, flippers, a lead belt, and a mask. Daeyeon put on sunscreen, a suit, flippers, goggles, and a snorkel. Grandma carried her tools to pluck treasures from the sea. Daeyeon carried hers to pluck treasures from the shore. Together they sang a Haenyeo song. "I eat wind instead of rice, take the waves as my home." On the sand, the Haenyeo tromped, clumsy in their flippers. But as soon as they dove, splash, they swam like mermaids. Daeyeon sat back, feeling like a beached urchin. She wiggled her toes in the tide pool. Grandma popped out of the water, whistling as she let out her held-in breath. Again and again the Haenyeo dove and came back up for air. The sea breeze carried the sound of their whistling. Daeyeon climbed onto her lookout rock. A shell gleamed under the water. She jumped in to grab it. As the water circled her waist, she shuddered and gasped. That's when Grandma's voice echoed in her head. She said not to be afraid. The ocean is your home. Know the sea and find its gifts. Daeyeon looked around at the other girls, giggling in the shallow water. She took a deep breath of hope and unclenched her fists. The waves rushed around her ears, but she relaxed when she felt the soft touch of the sea anemone on her fingertips. Maybe I could swim deeper. After collecting 10 sea gifts, Daeyeon heard singing as the orange globes of Haenyeo nets floated closer like a giant setting sun. Grandma and the others swam back. Daeyeon rolled round nets up the shore. I found pretty pebbles and shells, said Daeyeon. Beautiful, said Grandma. Now, are you ready to dive with me? Daeyeon set her bucket on a flat rock and looked at the sea. She gulped. What if I can't breathe? What if a shark comes? What if I can't escape? Grandma sang, can't you hear what the waves are saying? They're calling to us to come home. Daeyeon looked into Grandma's sweet eyes, swallowed her fear, and nodded. Side by side they walked. When Daeyeon could no longer feel the ocean bottom, she locked hands with Grandma. Take a deep breath, calm your mind, and then we'll dive. Down, down, Daeyeon and Grandma dove, but Daeyeon swam right back up. Daeyeon whistled as she let out her breath. Too quick, said Grandma. Relax, explore. Down, 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 down they went. This time, Daeyeon held her breath longer. Seaweed swayed with the current. Colorful fish darted by. She pointed to a garden of sparkling treasures. Suddenly, Grandma pulled her up, up, up. Dolphins, Grandma pointed. Dolphins bring hungry sharks. Daeyeon's heart beat faster. She kicked with all her might. What if they couldn't escape? Her arms felt like the lead weight in Grandma's belt. She swam to a nearby boat. A Haenyeo waited to lift her to safety, and that's when Daeyeon remembered her wish. Daeyeon shivered in Grandma's warm embrace. We worked together to keep each other safe. You were brave, Daeyeon. You'll be a fine Haenyeo someday. But Grandma, I didn't catch anything. Oh, but you did find treasure. Grandma opened her hand and gave Daeyeon a sparkling turban shell. Daeyeon's thumb followed the curve of the shell's spiral. She smiled. For the first time, she felt at home in the sea, like a mermaid, like a true Haenyeo. The end. And here's a story about the Haenyeo, but I won't read all of this. I'm sure it's very interesting though, but we'll leave all of that for another time. This is a good time to stop.